Listen carefully, because this might be the moment your mind finally wakes up. Negative thinking is not your identity. It's a pattern, a learned loop. And like any pattern, it can be unlearned, broken, and replaced. You are not your fear. You are not your doubt. You are not that voice in your head that says you're not enough. That voice is not you. It's your brain doing what it's designed to do: scan for danger, replay past failures, and anticipate pain. It's ancient survival code. But you're not living in a jungle. You're not being hunted. You're building a future. And for that, you need a clear mind. You need to kill negative thinking, not with violence, but with awareness. You need to interrupt the pattern. How? Start simple. When a negative thought enters your mind, don't react, don't run, observe it. Name it. Question it. Ask it, is this true? Is this helpful? Or is this just fear in disguise? Because here's the truth. Every time you engage with a negative thought, you strengthen it. But every time you redirect your focus towards gratitude, action, or purpose, you weaken it. That's how the brain works. It's called neuroplasticity. Your mind becomes what you repeatedly do. So breathe, stand tall, move your body. These are not just physical actions. They are neurological resets. When your posture changes, your chemistry changes. When your breathing slows, your brain calms. And when your energy shifts, your thoughts follow. Don't sit in the dark with your mind turned against you. Turn the light on. Because the real battle is not in the world. It's in your head. And you've got the tools to win. You've got awareness. You've got the ability to choose a different thought. You've got the power to rewire your mind. So next time the voice says, I can't, you say, watch me. The next time it whispers, you're not enough, you say, I decide who I am. This is not a motivational slogan. This is neuroscience in action. This is brain training. This is mindset transformation. Kill your negative thinking, rewire your mind, and build the future you deserve, one thought at a time. You've got this. Now go do the work. Your brain is wired for survival, not happiness. That single truth can transform the way you understand your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors. When you wake up in the morning and feel anxious about the day ahead or find yourself overwhelmed by self-doubt, that's not a sign that something is wrong with you. That's a sign that your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do: keep you alive. For thousands of years, the human brain developed in environments full of danger, uncertainty, and threat. It became finely tuned to detect risks, to anticipate problems, and to focus on what could go wrong. This ability helped our ancestors avoid predators, survive famine, and protect their tribes. But in the modern world, that same wiring can become a trap. Today, we aren't running from lions or hiding from storms in caves. We're navigating meetings, emails, relationships, and our own expectations. Yet our brains still react as if every challenge could be life or death. That's why you focus more on criticism than praise. That's why you replay embarrassing moments more than you celebrate wins. That's why a single negative comment on social media feels louder than 100 positive ones. It's not that you're broken. It's that your brain was never designed for constant happiness. It was designed for survival. This wiring is deeply embedded in a part of your brain called the amygdala. It scans every experience for potential danger. And once it finds something that feels threatening, an argument, a rejection, a financial worry, it fires a signal that activates stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. That's your fight or flight system. And while it's useful in emergencies, it becomes destructive when it runs nonstop. Chronic stress, anxiety, and overthinking aren't signs of weakness. They're signs that your survival system is on overdrive. Here's where it gets powerful. Just because the brain is wired this way doesn't mean you're doomed to live in fear or negativity. Neuroscience has shown us something extraordinary. Your brain is not fixed. It's adaptable. It can rewire itself based on how you use it. This is called neuroplasticity. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every action you repeat carves a pathway in your brain. The more you repeat something, the stronger that pathway becomes. That means negative thinking can become a habit, not because you choose it, but because you unknowingly feed it. But it also means positive thinking can become a habit if you choose to feed that instead. Imagine your brain as a forest. Every time you think a thought, you walk a path. The more often you walk that path, the clearer it becomes. The grass flattens, the route becomes familiar, and soon it's automatic. This is how thought patterns work. If your brain is constantly walking the path of fear, self-doubt, or judgment, those trails become dominant. But you have the power to step off that path. You can choose a new route. You can create new trails. And every time you shift your focus from fear to action, from worry to gratitude, from self-judgment to self-compassion, you're carving a new trail. Over time, that trail becomes your new default. This is not just positive thinking. It's biological training, and it starts with awareness. You must first notice your thoughts without judgment. Watch them, question them. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? When a negative thought shows up, like I'm not good enough or this will never work, recognize it as a signal, not a sentence. It's your brain trying to protect you. Say thank you to that thought, and then redirect your focus. Now, some might say, but I can't just flip a switch and be happy. That's true. But you can take small, deliberate steps that gradually shift your internal state. You can use tools like breathwork, movement, mindfulness, and visualization to calm your nervous system and shift your focus. You can train your attention to notice what's working, not just what's broken. You can practice gratitude daily, not because life is perfect, but because your brain needs help remembering that not everything is a threat. You can journal your wins, speak kindly to yourself, and surround yourself with people who lift you up. These are not just feel-good tactics. They are scientifically proven methods to shift your brain out of survival mode and into growth mode. And when you do this consistently, something incredible happens. You begin to experience more clarity, more resilience, more confidence. You stop reacting to every negative thought as if it's true. You become the observer of your mind, not the victim of it. You begin to build an internal environment where possibility feels louder than fear, where purpose drowns out panic, where you are no longer just surviving, but evolving. But understand this, rewiring your brain doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, effort, intention. It's not about never feeling fear again. It's about knowing how to move through fear. It's not about erasing negative thoughts. It's about choosing which ones to listen to. Every day, you have the opportunity to make that choice. Every moment is a chance to walk a different path. And every time you do, your brain changes, literally. So when you catch yourself stuck in overthinking, self-doubt, or anxiety, pause. Remind yourself this is not who I am. This is how I was wired, and wiring can be changed. Say it again. Wiring can be changed. That is your power. That is your responsibility. You are not a prisoner of your mind. You are the architect of it. And today, you start building something new. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Not because your brain wants comfort, but because your soul demands growth. Not because you never fall, but because you always rise. The world doesn't need another person stuck in survival. It needs one more person fully alive. That person is you. Just because you think something negative doesn't mean it's true. This is one of the most freeing realizations you can ever have. Your mind is constantly producing thoughts, thousands of them every single day. Some are useful, some are neutral, and some are deeply destructive. But the critical mistake most people make is this: they believe every thought that crosses their mind. They attach to it, identify with it, and allow it to define their mood, their behavior, and even their identity. That's the trap. The human brain is a thought-generating machine, not a truth-delivering system. It doesn't always give you reality. It gives you interpretation, perception, and stories built on past experiences and emotions. And most of the time, those stories are rooted in fear, insecurity, and self-doubt. Think of it like this: your brain is like a radio tower, constantly broadcasting signals. But not every station is clear. Some are filled with static distortion or old programming. When you hear a thought like, I'm not good enough, they're judging me, or I'll never succeed, those aren't facts. They're signals from a mind shaped by past failures, fears, or trauma. They are echoes of moments where you felt powerless. Your job is not to believe every signal, but to become skilled at tuning the dial. Just because the thought is loud doesn't mean it's true. Just because it feels real doesn't mean it's reality. This is especially true with negative self-talk. The human brain has a cognitive bias toward negativity. It remembers painful experiences more vividly, it gives more weight to threats, and it exaggerates problems to avoid future danger. This bias once kept us alive, but now it often holds us back. If you don't step in and question your thoughts, this negativity becomes your internal narrative. Over time, that narrative shapes how you see yourself, how you treat others, and how you show up in life. It becomes a filter that distorts everything. But once you understand that thoughts are just mental events, not commands, not predictions, not prophecies, you unlock the power to challenge them, to question them, and to change them. It begins with awareness. Start paying attention to your thoughts without judgment. Notice the ones that drain you, that cause stress, that trigger self-doubt. Write them down. Ask yourself, is this absolutely true? What evidence do I have? What else could be true instead? Most of the time, you'll find that the thought is exaggerated, outdated, or just plain wrong. It's based on fear, not fact. And when you question it, you take away its power. For example, you might think, I always mess things up. But is that true? Always. Or is it based on one mistake that your mind keeps replaying? You might think, no one supports me. But is that true? Or is it your brain focusing on one rejection while ignoring the people who care? You might think, I'll never be successful. But how do you know? Can you see the future? Or are you predicting failure based on fear, not logic? This process is called cognitive reframing. It's a psychological tool rooted in neuroscience and therapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. And it works. When you reframe a thought, you're not lying to yourself, you're correcting distortions. You're putting truth back in charge. And over time, this reshapes the pathways in your brain. You become less reactive, more resilient, and more in control of your internal world. Another key to breaking free from negative thinking is realizing that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. Imagine standing at the edge of a river. Your thoughts are like leaves floating downstream. Some are light, some are heavy. Some make you feel good, some don't. But you don't have to jump in and grab every leaf. You can watch them pass. That's mindfulness. It's not about stopping your thoughts. It's about changing your relationship with them. You stop identifying with every fear, every judgment, every criticism, and you begin to see your mind as a tool, not a master. Language also matters. When you say, I am anxious or I am a failure, you are reinforcing identity-based thoughts. Instead say, I'm experiencing anxiety or I made a mistake. One defines who you are, the other describes a moment. This simple shift reduces the emotional charge of the thought and gives you space to respond rather than react. It gives you control. Your environment plays a role too. If you constantly expose yourself to negativity through toxic people, social media, or self-comparison, you feed the patterns your brain is trying to escape. Protect your mental space. Surround yourself with voices that challenge you to grow, not shrink. Read things that uplift you. Listen to people who speak truth, not fear. Choose inputs that elevate your thinking. And understand this, negative thoughts will never fully go away. You can't eliminate them entirely, and you don't need to. What matters is that you don't obey them. You learn to live above them. You learn to hear the voice of fear and still move forward. That's courage. That's strength. And that's what rewiring your brain looks like. Not perfection, but progress. So next time your mind tells you a story that makes you feel small, pause. Ask, who is thinking this? Why do I believe it? Is this helping me or harming me? And then choose a new thought. A better one. One rooted in growth, not fear. Because the truth is, you're capable of far more than your mind lets on. And once you stop treating every thought like truth, you start living in actual truth. That's where your power begins. That's where your real life begins. Where focus goes, energy flows. This is more than just a quote. It's a fundamental truth rooted in how your brain, body, and nervous system operate. Your attention is a spotlight, and whatever you shine it on becomes more powerful. The more time you spend focusing on problems, negativity, or fear, the more energy you give to those things, they grow stronger, they feel more real, and they begin to dominate your inner world. That's not magic, it's neuroscience. Your brain strengthens the neural circuits that are used most often. So if you constantly think about what's wrong, what's missing, or what could go wrong, you are literally wiring your brain to be more anxious, more reactive, and more stressed. But here's the good news, this principle works both ways. If you shift your focus toward growth, progress, and gratitude, your energy begins to change. You feel stronger, more present, and more in control. That's not hype. It's how the human system is built. Attention is a limited resource. You can't focus on everything at once. That means every moment you are making a choice, whether consciously or not, about where to direct your mental energy. And that choice shapes how you feel, how you think, and how you act. If you wake up in the morning and immediately check your phone, scroll through news filled with negativity, or dive into stressful emails, you're setting a tone of chaos for your entire day. Your mind begins in reaction mode. But if you begin your day by directing your focus toward clarity through breath work, journaling, goal setting, or even 5 minutes of silence, you are training your mind to lead instead of follow. You are reclaiming your focus. Think about this. Your brain cannot distinguish between something vividly imagined and something actually experienced. That means if you constantly focus on worst-case scenarios, your body responds with stress hormones as if those things are happening now. You create a physiological response to an imagined future. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles tense. And without realizing it, your body lives in a state of emergency. But the opposite is also true. When you focus on a vision, a goal, a purpose that excites you, even if it hasn't happened yet, your body begins to align with that vision. Your emotions elevate. Your thinking becomes more solution-oriented. you start to move in the direction of that vision. This is not just motivation, it's biology. Focus determines your emotional state. If you focus on pain, you feel more pain. If you focus on possibilities, you feel more hope. Two people can go through the same situation and experience completely differently based on what they choose to focus on. One person sees failure, the other sees a lesson. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. One sees a dead end, the other sees a detour. The situation is the same, the focus is different, and that difference changes everything. Now, this doesn't mean you should ignore problems or pretend that everything is perfect. That's not focus, that's denial. What it means is that you recognize problems but refuse to give them more energy than they deserve. You address challenges without becoming consumed by them. You focus on what you can control instead of what you can't. You shift from, why is this happening to me? To, what can I learn from this? That's a powerful shift. It moves you from victim to leader, from chaos to clarity. You also have to understand that your focus is constantly being hijacked. In today's world, your attention is a commodity. Social media platforms, news outlets, and even marketing algorithms are designed to pull your focus away from what matters and redirect it toward what triggers emotion. Usually fear, outrage, or distraction. Every scroll, every notification, every dopamine hit is rewiring your brain to crave stimulation over depth, reaction over reflection. If you don't actively guard your focus, it will be scattered by default. And a scattered mind cannot create a strong life. This is why focus is not just a habit, it's a discipline. You can train your focus like a muscle. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools for this. It teaches you to notice when your attention drifts and gently bring it back. Over time, this strengthens your ability to choose where your energy goes. Visualization is another tool. When you close your eyes and imagine your goals with detail and emotion, your brain begins to form pathways that help make that vision real. Journaling is another. When you write down what you're grateful for, what you've achieved, and what you're working toward, you bring clarity and intention to your focus. These practices are not luxury. They're necessity for anyone who wants to master their mind. And it doesn't stop at mindset. Where you place your focus also affects your physical performance, your relationships, and your creativity. Athletes know this. The best performers in the world don't just train their bodies, they train their focus. They learn how to block out distractions, manage pressure, and stay locked into the present moment. Entrepreneurs know this. Building something meaningful requires sustained attention, even when things are chaotic. Leaders know this. The ability to focus on vision instead of noise is what separates movement from stagnation. You must become intentional with your focus. Start by asking yourself daily, where is my attention right now? Is it helping me or hurting me? Is it moving me closer to the life I want or further from it? And then redirect it. Do it again and again. Because every time you do, you're taking back control from distraction. You're taking power away from fear. You're putting your energy where it counts, on your values, your purpose, your mission. It won't be easy. You'll be tempted by comfort, drama, and urgency. But remember, every moment you stay focused, you grow stronger. Every time you resist the pull of negativity and turn your attention toward what's possible, you are rewriting your story. This is the essence of transformation. Not a sudden breakthrough, but a series of small, repeated choices. Choices about what you give your energy to. And when those choices become a lifestyle, your life begins to reflect your vision, not your fear. So guard your focus. Direct it with intention. And remember this, where focus goes, energy flows. And where your energy flows, your life follows. The nervous system doesn't just react to your thoughts, it helps shape them. Most people believe that their thoughts lead their body, but neuroscience shows it goes both ways. In fact, the body often leads the mind, especially when it comes to stress, fear, and negative thinking. When your body is in a heightened state, your heart rate is up, your breathing is shallow, your muscles are tense. Your brain interprets that physical state as danger, even if there's no real threat present. This is how a loop begins. The body signals danger, the brain creates fearful thoughts, those thoughts reinforce stress in the body, and the cycle continues. If you don't interrupt it, this loop becomes your default state. That's why understanding the nervous system is crucial to breaking free from negative thinking. You don't just change your mind with logic, you change it by regulating your biology. The nervous system operates through two primary branches, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is your fight or flight mode. It activates during perceived threats, real or imagined. It prepares your body for action. Adrenaline surges, cortisol increases, digestion slows, and focus narrows. This state is useful in emergencies, but when it becomes chronic, it's damaging. It locks your mind in survival mode, and in survival mode, your thoughts are not expansive, creative, or hopeful. They're defensive, narrow, and often paranoid. On the other hand, the parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest mode. It slows your heart rate, calms your breathing, and promotes clarity. In this state, you can reflect, solve problems, and access higher level thinking. The key is learning how to shift from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic system deliberately, especially when negative thoughts are dominating your mental space. Breathing is one of the most effective tools for this shift. Your breath is like a remote control for your nervous system. When you're anxious or caught in negative loops, your breath becomes fast and shallow, usually in the chest. But when you breathe deeply into your diaphragm, slowly and intentionally, your body sends a signal to your brain that you're safe. That single message can downshift your entire system. One of the most powerful techniques is double inhale followed by a long exhale. Inhale sharply through the nose twice in a row, then exhale slowly through the mouth. Just 3 to 5 rounds of this breathing method can reset your nervous system and calm the mental storm. It's not just psychological, it's physiological. You're directly influencing your internal state. Movement is another tool. When the body is stagnant, emotions can become stuck. But when you move, whether it's a walk, a workout, or simply standing up and stretching, you change your state. This movement releases endorphins, increases circulation, and shifts your focus from internal noise to physical presence. The mind follows the body. That's why people often say they think more clearly after a run or walk. It's not just emotional, it's biological. You've released trapped energy and created space for new thoughts. Cold exposure is another practice rooted in nervous system science. When you expose your body to cold water like a cold shower or ice bath, you train your nervous system to stay calm under stress. The cold triggers the stress response, but your job is to stay relaxed, to breathe, and to be present. This builds resilience. Over time, your nervous system becomes more adaptable. You teach your body not to panic in discomfort, and that calm transfers into everyday life. So when a negative thought arises, your system doesn't overreact. You've trained it to stay grounded. Sleep also plays a huge role. A tired brain is a reactive brain. When you're sleep deprived, the amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for fear and threat detection, becomes hyperactive. Your emotional regulation weakens, and your thoughts become more negative and irrational. It's not a matter of discipline, it's biology. Without rest, your nervous system operates in constant overdrive. That's why high-quality sleep is not optional for mental clarity. It's a foundation. If you're trying to kill negative thinking while running on empty, it's like trying to fight a fire with gasoline. Prioritize recovery. Another powerful way to regulate your nervous system is through physical connection. Safe human touch, eye contact, and even conversations with people who make you feel seen and heard. These interactions release oxytocin, a hormone that counters stress and promotes safety. This is why isolation often leads to darker thoughts. It removes the physiological anchors of safety. You're not just lonely emotionally, you're dysregulated physically. Connection is medicine, not weakness. Also, your posture affects your mind. When you sit slouched or walk with your head down, your nervous system interprets that as defeat or danger. When you stand tall, open your chest, and breathe fully, your nervous system responds with more confidence and safety. This isn't motivational fluff, it's neuroscience. Embodied cognition proves that how you hold your body influences how you process the world. The key insight here is this: if you want to kill negative thinking, don't just argue with your thoughts. That rarely works when your body is in distress. You have to go deeper into your physiology. You calm the body first, then the mind follows. You reset the system, and from that calm state, you gain access to more truthful, constructive thoughts. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop spiraling and start stabilizing. Training your nervous system is not a one-time act. It's a daily discipline. It's choosing to breathe intentionally when your mind wants to panic. It's choosing movement over stagnation, sleep over hustle, presence over distraction. It's building a body that tells your brain, one, are safe, we are capable, we are strong. That's how you break the loop. That's how you kill negative thinking, not by force, but by regulation. Because a calm body creates a calm mind. And in that calm, you remember who you really are, not your thoughts, not your fears, but the one who can rise above them, the one who leads the system, not the one who is ruled by it. That's real power. And it begins in your nervous system. Most people try to fight negative thinking by resisting it, suppressing it, or ignoring it. But that approach doesn't work in the long run. The brain doesn't respond well to suppression. In fact, when you try not to think about something, you often think about it more. That's how attention works. Whatever you resist, you reinforce. The key is not to suppress negative thinking, but to rewire the mental habits that produce it. The brain is not fixed. It's constantly reshaping itself through a process called neuroplasticity. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen a neural pathway. If you repeatedly think self-critical, fearful, or hopeless thoughts, those pathways become dominant. They feel automatic, not because they are truth, but because they are familiar. The brain favors the familiar, but you can break that cycle. You can train your brain to favor more empowering, realistic, and growth-oriented patterns. This isn't theory, it's neuroscience. And it begins with one powerful tool, self-directed neuroplasticity. Self-directed neuroplasticity is your ability to intentionally change your brain by choosing where you place your attention and how you respond to thoughts. Every moment is a chance to rewire. When a negative thought arises, I'm not good enough, this will never work, I always fail, you can pause and engage with that thought differently. Instead of believing it, you can label it. That's a fear-based pattern, or that's an old script. This act of noticing shifts your brain from reactive mode to reflective mode. You engage the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, planning, and regulation. In doing so, you interrupt the old loop and create space for a new choice. One effective method for rewiring is thought substitution. Instead of trying to not think negatively, you actively choose what to think instead. For example, if your automatic thought is, I can't handle this, you replace it with, I've handled hard things before. This isn't about blind positivity, it's about accurate thinking. You're not lying to yourself, you're guiding your brain toward a more constructive perspective. The more often you do this, the easier it becomes. Neural pathways that are not used begin to weaken through a process called synaptic pruning. Meanwhile, new pathways grow stronger. This is how habits are formed through repetition, consistency, and intention. Another important element of rewiring is emotional association. The brain remembers what it feels. So if you want to reinforce a new thought, you need to attach an emotion to it. When you think, I am capable, say it while standing tall, breathing deeply, and recalling a time when you truly felt powerful. That emotional charge embeds the thought more deeply into your neural architecture. It makes the affirmation stick. This is why visualization is so powerful. When you mentally rehearse your success, not just the actions, but the emotions, you activate the same brain regions as if you were experiencing it. Over time, your brain begins to treat the vision as familiar. It stops resisting change because it no longer sees it as a threat. Instead, it sees it as the new normal. Gratitude is also a powerful rewiring tool. The brain has a natural negativity bias. It's wired to focus more on problems than positives because that once helped us survive. But in the modern world, this bias often leads to chronic stress, overthinking, and pessimism. Gratitude interrupts that bias. When you train yourself to notice what's working, what's beautiful, what's improving, you create new neural patterns of appreciation and presence. A daily practice of writing 3 things you're grateful for literally changes brain structure. Studies show it increases gray matter in areas related to empathy and emotional regulation. This isn't just about being thankful. It's about upgrading your brain's default mode. The language you use also plays a critical role. Words are not just labels, they are instructions to the brain. When you say, I'm a failure, your brain takes that as a command. It starts scanning for evidence to prove that belief. But when you say, I'm learning, or I'm adapting, your brain shifts into growth mode. Be careful with the words you repeat. They are not just expressions, they are programming. You're either reinforcing limitation or expanding potential with every sentence you speak. Speak with intention. Journaling is another practice that helps you rewire. When you write down your thoughts, you externalize them. You give yourself distance. That distance creates objectivity. You can look at your thinking and ask, is this true? Is this helpful? What else could be true? These questions activate metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking. That's where real change begins. The more you reflect on your mental patterns, the more power you have to reshape them. You move from being a passive observer of thought to an active architect of mindset. Environment matters too. Your surroundings influence your thinking more than you realize. If you're constantly around people who complain, who gossip, who dwell in problems, your brain mirrors that energy. This is called neural mirroring. On the flip side, if you surround yourself with people who focus on solutions, who talk about ideas, who lift others up, you begin to adopt their patterns. Choose your circle wisely. It's not just social, it's neurological. Rewiring the brain also involves patience. The brain doesn't change overnight. New neural pathways take time to form and stabilize, but every repetition counts. Every time you notice a negative thought and choose a new response, you're carving a new mental path. At first, it feels hard. But with practice, it becomes your default. You move from reaction to intention, from chaos to clarity, from fear to focus. This process is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you really are, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the old programming. The real you is not the one who doubts, overthinks, or self-sabotages. The real you is the one who sees clearly, acts with purpose, and chooses with power. That version of you is not lost. It's just buried under layers of outdated wiring. But wiring can be changed, and that means your mind can be transformed. So if you want to kill negative thinking, don't just wait for motivation. Don't hope it disappears on its own. Take the wheel. Use the tools of awareness, repetition, emotion, and action to train your brain toward the mindset that serves you. You're not broken. You're adaptable. You're not stuck. You're rewiring. And every moment is a new chance to change the direction of your thoughts, and therefore the direction of your life. One of the most overlooked causes of negative thinking is lifestyle. People often assume their mental state is entirely a matter of willpower, as if they can think their way out of anxiety, depression, or chronic stress. But the brain doesn't function in isolation. It is part of a larger system, your entire body. And that system is directly influenced by how you live, what you eat, how much you sleep, how often you move, the kind of light you're exposed to, the way you spend your time. These factors don't just influence your energy or appearance, they shape your thoughts, your emotions, your attention, and your overall perception of life. If you're not managing your lifestyle, you're making it harder, sometimes nearly impossible, to manage your mind. Negative thinking is not always a moral failure or a lack of discipline. Often, it is the biological result of a system out of balance. Sleep is one of the first and most critical factors. When you are sleep deprived, your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation, becomes less active. At the same time, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes hyperactive. This means that even small problems feel enormous and your ability to handle stress diminishes. You become more reactive, more sensitive, more pessimistic. It's not your mindset, it's your chemistry. Without enough restorative sleep, especially deep sleep and REM cycles, the brain doesn't have a chance to reset. Emotional memories remain unprocessed, cortisol levels remain high, and negative thoughts linger far longer than they should. Improving sleep hygiene, consistent sleep times, eliminating screen exposure before bed, reducing caffeine, and sleeping in total darkness can drastically reduce negative thinking, not by changing your beliefs, but by restoring your brain's capacity to think clearly. Diet is another crucial lifestyle factor. The brain consumes around 20% of the body's energy despite being only about 2% of its weight. What you eat directly impacts how your brain functions. Diets high in sugar, processed foods, and inflammatory fats lead to blood sugar spikes and crashes, mood swings, and increased inflammation, all of which contribute to anxiety and negative thinking. On the other hand, diets rich in omega-3 fatty acids, fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants support cognitive function, memory, and mood stability. The gut and the brain are deeply connected through the gut-brain axis. An unhealthy gut microbiome can lead to poor mental health outcomes, while a nourished microbiome helps produce neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, the very chemicals that regulate mood. Feeding your brain with the right nutrients is not a luxury, it's a necessity if you want to kill chronic negative thought loops. Physical movement is not just for aesthetics or physical health, it is fundamental to mental clarity. When you move your body, you activate the release of endorphins, dopamine, and other feel-good chemicals. Exercise reduces cortisol and adrenaline, enhances neurogenesis, the creation of new brain cells, and boosts brain-derived neurotrophic factors, BDNF, a protein that supports learning and mental resilience. You don't have to become a marathon runner. Even 20 to 30 minutes of brisk walking, resistance training, or light cardio can dramatically improve mental state. In contrast, a sedentary lifestyle contributes to brain fog, low energy, and a tendency toward negative rumination. Simply standing up, stretching, and moving every hour can have a noticeable effect on your mood and mindset. A still body traps energy. A moving body releases it. Sunlight and natural light exposure also play a critical role in regulating the mind. Morning sunlight helps reset the body's circadian rhythm, which influences everything from sleep quality to hormone production to mood. Exposure to natural light increases serotonin levels, which promotes a sense of well-being and focus. Lack of sunlight, on the other hand, is linked to seasonal affective disorder, fatigue, and depressive symptoms. Your brain was designed in sync with nature. If you're spending all your time indoors under artificial lighting, your biology is confused. Getting 10 to 20 minutes of morning light preferably within an hour of waking up, signals to your brain that it's time to be alert, focused, and balanced. At night, avoiding bright screens helps signal to the brain that it's time to wind down. Respecting this light cycle is a non-negotiable part of mental hygiene. Another overlooked factor is digital consumption. The constant barrage of news, notifications, social comparison, and online noise overstimulates the nervous system and floods the brain with dopamine spikes. This leads to addiction, like cycles of craving, distraction, and dissatisfaction. Social media often creates distorted realities where you compare your behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, fear of missing out, and hopelessness, all of which fuel negative thinking. Detoxing from digital devices, setting boundaries for screen time, and engaging in focused, deep work or real-world conversations helps the brain recover its natural rhythm and attention span. The brain was not meant to be pinged every 5 seconds. It needs stillness. It needs space. Without it, thoughts become chaotic, shallow, and negative. Hydration is another underestimated pillar of brain health. The brain is over 70% water. Even mild dehydration can impair mood, memory, and concentration. When you're dehydrated, cortisol levels increase and blood flow to the brain decreases. This creates a foggy, irritable, and anxious mental state. Drinking enough water throughout the day is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to support clear thinking. Yet most people walk around mildly dehydrated without even realizing the toll it's taking on their cognition. Routine and structure are also essential. The human brain craves predictability and order. When your life is chaotic and unstructured, your brain feels unsafe. That perception of threat translates into anxiety and negative thoughts. But when you build a daily structure, morning rituals, focused work periods, scheduled breaks, evening wind downs, you create safety for the brain. You remove uncertainty. You signal that someone is in control. That sense of agency is powerful. It allows the mind to focus on solutions instead of problems. It frees up mental space to dream, to create, to solve. Lastly, purpose plays a huge role. A lifestyle without meaning invites negative thinking. When you don't know what you're living for, everything feels heavier. The brain starts scanning for reasons to feel empty or lost. But when your life is aligned with something bigger, whether it's growth, service, creativity, family, or contribution, your brain locks onto that purpose. It gives you a reason to push through challenges, a lens to interpret pain as part of the process. Purpose organizes the chaos. It rewires the brain to see meaning where others see despair. So if you want to kill negative thinking, don't just focus on thoughts. Zoom out. Look at the whole system. Your lifestyle is either supporting your mind or sabotaging it. Your habits are either giving your brain the environment it needs to thrive, or they're depriving it of the very resources it depends on to function. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware. It's about realizing that every choice, from what you eat to how you sleep to how much you move, is a vote for the kind of mind you want to live with. A healthy body supports a healthy brain. And a healthy brain is your best defense against the storms of negative thinking. Start with your lifestyle, and the mind will begin to follow.